Okay everyone, welcome to part 5 of the Terminator build series. Now it's been a while since we finished up part 4, but let's just get right into this and try and not take too long. So this part is going to be the case, the acrylic case, and the fans and filter boxes and ducting and all that kind of stuff for the fans. So nothing too complicated at this point. Your printer is pretty much already built, so all we gotta do is get the ducting assembled, the fans hooked up, and mounted to the correct places on the case, and the case mounted on the outside of the frame, and then you're pretty much done. You can print from there on. So looking forward to the part 6 where we'll actually be doing the printing. We'll show you guys the actual printing process in a time lapse, how to use the software I'm using, all that stuff. So that'll be the most exciting part, but let's jump right into this. So this is just a view of the right side of the printer. I don't have any drawing files or CAD files to show where to place the fans exactly. So the actual diameter here, the diameter across, you'll just measure from the fan. I don't remember what it is in millimeters. These are 80 millimeter fans. And the actual placement here is not super important. You can see down here I have all the electronics and chipboard on the bottom. But yeah, the actual position of this fan and the filter, you can move it around a little bit as long as you don't hit the electronics in here. You can go up, you could go forward, back, so the placement's up to you. The one thing you do want to make sure is when you're drilling the holes for these Allen bolts, for every part of the case pretty much, make sure and do all the drilling and cutting you can with the paper still on, because when you get the acrylic it has paper on it. So make sure, if you can, that you go around and drill these holes and everything with the paper still attached, because as soon as you take the paper off, you start scratching up the acrylic. So mark these holes out in millimeters, from the edge, so that they're placed into the center of your channel on your frame, and then go ahead and drill them out with the paper still on there. If you can, mark out the fans as well. Do everything you can with the paper attached. Obviously these guys here where the plugs are, these I had to do after I removed the paper because you need to be able to see where they are. So basically I just put it on the side of the printer and then used a Sharpie to mark exactly where these plugs were going to be, so I could get the Dremel out and put them in the right spot. But everything else I did pretty much with the paper on, so you don't damage the acrylic. The other note you want to do is when you're doing these holes for the bolts, go ahead and do them stepped up. So use the pilot drill bit, use an intermediate bit, and then use your last bit slightly oversized, because if you drill them exactly 5mm equivalent, there won't be enough play to get this to mount on the printer. There needs to be a little bit of play between the hole and the bolt so that you can get these things to mount. So give yourself a little room and use a couple drill bits to get up to that size that you need, because if you start out with your end diameter, you're going to end up chipping the acrylic and cracking it, and you'll have to buy another piece. So that's the basics right there. I know on Thingiverse, you can see right here there's a little dip where I cut this out. On Thingiverse there is a circle guide attachment that you can print for a Dremel that will allow you to basically put a center here, and as you cut, it's like a compass, it just cuts in a perfect circle. So you might want to use that to get a more perfect circle cut out. Or if you have access to a CNC, you could just do all of this with a CNC machine. If you want to contribute the CNC files, I'd be glad to upload them to the Thingiverse group page. So let's go on here to the next photo. This is kind of a top-down view looking in the side. Draw a little bit here. This is just a close-up of the plugs. You can see I cut them pretty close. And in the case where a plug like this has sharp corners, I just used a miniature file set to get these squared up, so you don't have to do anything too fancy. Just get it as close as you can and then file out the corners into the shape you need with a hand file. There's really not much to it. On the back here you can see where we attached the back piece of acrylic. I used a product called Fuse It. It's basically like a glue and a sealer, so that way I don't get fumes escaping out of the back here, and it makes the whole printer a little more stable because the back actually holds these sides in place. The sides are bolted to the frame, but there's no frame at the top of the printer, so up here out of the view there's nothing holding this except the back. So this needs to be glued to the back semi-permanently in order for the the case to have some rigidity. Let's just get here to the next photo that's important at the moment. This is the top of the printer over here. This is the bottom, so we're looking at it sideways. But I just want to show you guys for the seams, the doors and whatnot. All you're going to use is use clear tape. This is just a piece of clear 3M tape you would use for a box. Better quality tape obviously would be a good idea because it'll last longer, but there's no fancy hinges on the printer. This keeps it minimalist and clean. So all you need to do on the wings, this is one of the wings here, the doors that swings open that I showed in part 1, is just use clear tape. And if the tape ever breaks, then all you gotta do is remove it, rub it down with alcohol to get the glue off, and put another piece on. It's pretty simple, and I've been using the printer for a year now, and the tape has not broken yet, so it seems to be working well. Thing I want to show you, and that is the latches. I never showed how to mount the latches exactly, so basically they're pretty simple. You just print them. Let me go to a different photo here so we can show you the little magnets. These are 1/4-inch neodymium magnets. I think I purchased them on Amazon. These guys right here. And they're the shape of a cylinder, so you just press them down into the recess that's in the print, and that's it. But this is the front of the printer here. So we just mounted it on the side of the wing, and I could have mounted it right here on the platform, but the problem is when you start disassembling the printer, this platform comes out first. So that means that if you want to close up the case and keep the dust out while you're working on it, you can't because the doors won't stay shut anymore. So I purposely mounted it on the wing. That way when the front of the case comes around here and closes up into here, everything is still closed and no dust comes into the printer, even if other parts of the printer are missing. Like I could take stuff out of the inside here and it would still close. This is the other corner of the printer in the front. This one I actually did mount to the platform because having it on a moving door didn't make any sense, and it needs to keep this wing shut pretty much all the time, even when the front is open. So I just mounted this one to the actual platform. This is the top left corner, so if you remember from the first video, this is the filter back here in the top left, and this is just mounted to the top of the case, and this one is just mounted to the side wing. So the wing has a magnet here at the top, and then the one we just looked at was down here at the bottom. So that keeps the wing shut, and that way when you open the door over here, the wing doesn't open on its own. It stays shut unless you physically open it. And this is the top right corner. Kind of the same idea, except over here, you can't see it, but there's actually 3 here. So there's a latch here, there's a latch here behind this one, and the latch on the back side is, you can see the glue over here, it's holding this wing shut, the same as the left side. But this guy right here in the front is actually holding the front of the door, so when the front door comes around and swings shut into here, this is the latch for the front door, and the one for the wing is just behind it, so you can't see it. And that's pretty much it for the case. So you can mark out the case, drill the holes, and place everything where you want to. You do have to put the fans on the correct side of the printer. I'll get into that in a minute here, but the exact placement of them is not important. So this is the digital mock-up I ended up creating in order to do some renders and help show where the different parts were, because it's hard to get pictures of the actual printer without taking it apart. And plus all the wires and everything makes it hard to see exactly what you're looking at. So I've got the front part of the case here hidden because I didn't model all the parts, I just made simple rectangular shapes for a render. So what I wanted to show you guys was the duct system that you're going to be attaching this back fan to. So there's a fan here in the corner, which we already looked at, which was right here. That's the high pressure delta fan that pulls the hot air out of the bottom of the printer and puts it into the top, because otherwise the bottom overheats, which causes problems. So I'm going to hide a couple parts here. We'll just kind of go down through the different parts here and show you, since we have them here. These are the knobs. the vat. This is the seal for the vat. I'm going to hide this just so it doesn't get in the way. This is the main platform. And then this is the light box down here where the LEDs are going to be sticking up. The lenses will be right here. And then these little areas right here with the holes are where the fans are going to mount. But the one thing I wanted to go into right now before we get any further is you have to make sure that your cold air input is coming in from the left here. So these, hide this side as well. This is the little grill that holds the filter material that just basically filters dust. That's all it does. Hide this. So your fan would be right here behind the filter box, and you have your cold air coming in on the left, and you're going to have two fans right here that are taking that cold air and blowing it up. It's going to go up and across the screen to keep the screen cool. But that means that so the hot air has to exit over here on the right side. These fans are going to be pulling air down and out. They're exhausting the hot air out. And that means that you have to have the exhaust fan, this fan right here, this is the filter box, has to be on the right side of the printer, because if it's not, what happens is when the printer is running, you've got cool air coming in, going up, going across the screen and the lights, coming down, and then it just ends up over here in the bottom of the printer, and it heats up this side of the screen, whereas this side over here stays cooler, and you end up with print failures and parts sticking because one side of the screen is too hot compared to the other. So you have to make sure that this exhaust fan is over here on the right side. So it can be anywhere on the right side, but it needs to be on the right side. So we'll go ahead and keep going down here. Hide this stuff. We'll hide the fan boxes or the light boxes here. These would be the actual heat sinks. I'm going to hide these. These are the main brackets that hold the whole assembly. So we'll hide that. This is the rails. We'll hide that. Hide the brackets. And now that we're all the way down in here, I've gotten pretty much everything hidden except the fan brackets and the ducting, because I wanted to show you guys how the ducting is set up. The ducting was new. It wasn't in the original Part 1 video because I didn't realize that we had heat problems at that point. But I realized at some point that the heat underneath the platform was causing the prints to stick abnormally to the FEP film, because there's always some vacuum or peel force, they call it, between the part and the film, because there's no oxygen when it goes to peel it off. There's no air between it, so naturally there's a little vacuum pressure. But when you have the bottom of the printer getting super hot and the top up here is barely warm, that heat differential causes problems in the form of your parts sticking really, really well, and they stick so well to the FEP film that it will actually tear the prints apart at some point. So after running for about an hour and a half, it'll start ripping your prints in half. And of course, once that happens, you might as well just stop the printer. Your print's over, it's done. So it doesn't matter if you're printing one part or 50, they're all going to be wasted. So that's when I decided to design this duct system to get the hot air out of the bottom and put it up in the top so that the temperature was more equivalent. And it did end up working beautifully. It solves the sticking problem, so now the parts don't rip and tear anymore. But basically the way this duct works is you have the two side ducts that run down beside the heatsink blocks. And then you would have this main duct in the back. And this one is not identical to the print. The print is actually going to come straight off of here. It comes out square. There's no bevel on here. I must have loaded the wrong file into here, but or maybe it is the right one. I can't remember now. But anyway, this is the joiner for the two ducts, and that basically just makes this high pressure fan here pull air from both of them, right? And then down here at the end, these are basically a cap and a bracket at the same time. So if we look upward, these are just mounted to the bottom of the front rail, and it keeps this arm, it keeps the duct arm from dropping down because of gravity or vibration, so it stays there. And it also keeps it from pulling air from the end, because we don't want air coming in the end. We want air to go directly from the heat sinks. They're going to hit these vanes, and the vanes are going to direct the air backwards, and it's going to go straight back into here, and the combination of the movement back and the vacuum pressure from the top here pulling this direction means that we'll get the hot air out as quick as possible. These ducts on the left and the right are identical, except for one thing, and that is I put slots in the top of the right side because, remember, this is the hot side of the printer over here. So we need to pull more air from this side of the printer than we do from this side. So I purposely designed this duct to pull in more air, and in the back here I also designed it so that the air has an easier flow up into the fan than the other side. So we're actually pulling more air from this side at all times than we are from this side. But what that does is ensure that this side doesn't overheat, because this side is getting all the hot air exhausted into it. So actually the temperature on this back of the screen is more equal when we have this side pulling more. And you cannot skip this fan over here on the right that I showed you earlier. This is the filter box. You can't skip this. I tried to remove it and take it out of the printer completely, but eventually the right side here, this duct system cannot pull the air quick enough out of here, and eventually it does get too hot and causes problems. So I had to put this fan back in here, and this filter box, sorry, was originally a large filter box like we had on the top up here. It looked like this guy over here, but the space is more confined with the ducting, so it wouldn't fit in there anymore. And I had to change it to the smaller filter box. I had to basically redesign a new filter box that also has carbon in it, so it absorbs the fumes. Maybe not as well, but it does absorb them enough to not smell it. But you can't skip this fan. This fan has to be over here on the right somewhere, or you're going to overheat the right side. So that's pretty much it. These little legs just basically press on. If we hide one of them here, hide the vanes, here we go. It just basically presses onto the back, so you could ignore these. When you press it on, it just slides onto here. It's just basically a press fit. There's no glue or anything. If you want to glue it, you could, but I didn't glue mine because I designed both ends here, both the cap here and the bracket have an inset that holds onto the part, so it can't actually come off. So it is a little bit tricky getting this duct in here, so you may have to remove some of the light parts to get it in there, but it will greatly improve the printer's thermal setup, and you won't have any print failures. I have had 0 print failures caused by heat since I installed it, so your fan's going to bolt on here, and that's pretty much it. Don't want to take too long here. Go ahead and unhide all this other stuff. So at this point, you guys should have the ducting installed. You should have the fans mounted. We're going to go back. Look at the photos again. Trying to show you one of these photos. Right here, this is the back of the printer. So this is the back, here's the fan. There's the fan over here. This is the power supply right here, and you can see the bottom just barely misses the power supply and the cables coming out of it. And this is not attached, it's just setting in here. I think I placed double-sided foam underneath it so the vibration wouldn't carry into the case, because no matter how well balanced this fan is, there's always some harmonic vibration, and I didn't want it going into the frame, so I just put a little double-sided tape under it, basically a piece of foam, so that it couldn't vibrate and go into the frame, but that's it. I wanted to show you one last thing here. The platform, I did want to note that I changed the platform from the mesh back to the anodized aluminum, and that's because once I got the entire printer rebuilt and I had the acrylic window underneath the screen, so remember I showed you guys you put an acrylic window under the screen here to keep it flat when it's printing so there's no drooping, it can't sag down. Once you do that, the parts actually adhere really well to the platform, and in some cases they adhere so well but you end up breaking them to get them off, so I ended up switching back to the anodized platform, and I did drill these holes. I think the holes are spaced at 20 millimeters, 20 or 25, but I hand drilled all these holes carefully after drawing out a grid and using a center punch. And so far this anodized aluminum plate seems to be working better because the prints are easier to remove, but they still stick just fine. So just wanted to note that. Here's the bracket on the end. Here's the fan. You can see there's only about 5 millimeters of clearance here. The other bracket, this is looking up from the bottom, so you can see the whole assembly's in here. Here's the fins on the left and the right. This is that fan. This is the new fan filter box. Now, on the corner here, you can see I taped it together so that it couldn't pop off, but the actual printed version you guys will be printing have brackets, so it should clip on. You shouldn't need any tape. This is looking in the side. You can see these little ducts on the top. And the one last thing I have to show you guys is how to assemble the filter boxes. It's not too complicated. Basically, you're going to print the adapter, which is this guy here, and it has a lip on it, and that lip mounts into the back of the filter box. So when you're looking at the filter box from the back, this recess right here is the opposite of that lip. So it actually presses in and clips in. It's made to fit fairly snug so it doesn't actually fall off. I didn't glue it, I just pressed it on and it stays there. And that's basically so you can remove the filter box. So if you ever want to take the filter box off to change out the filter media, you can leave the fan mounted. So when you're assembling the filter box, you're going to press this into the back and it'll look something like this. And then you're going to drop these little rails you see right here, these little bars. This is a spacer, and the spacer just keeps this register media right here, the filter media. It keeps it spaced off the back so that the fan pulls air from this direction, so air can come down the back of the filter box like this and end up in the fan. Otherwise, there's no direct path for the fan to pull air from over here. So make sure and drop this into the bottom first, this little spacer. And then from the top, you're going to have something like this. You're going to have a piece of filter on the top here. I put another one in here because there was a little bit too much slop. There's going to be one on the bottom, obviously, which we just looked at. There's one right here. And then you're just going to basically fill it up. So you're going to take the little 3M filter cartridges. You're going to snip the face off with a pair of pliers carefully. And you're just going to pour the activated charcoal in here, and this is what's going to absorb all the print odors so you don't shorten your lifespan any. And then you're good to go. You're going to put it back together, and it will look like this over here. So that's pretty much it for the large filter box. The small box is kind of the same idea. You're just going to put this filter media in the bottom. You're going to put a piece on each side. Make sure that they're just a little bit too large so there's no gaps, because if there are gaps, that charcoal will sneak out and end up everywhere. And then you're going to have a piece on the top here, obviously, on the lid. You're going to put the charcoal in there, pop the top on, and you're good to go. So that's pretty much it, guys, for part 5. Looking forward to doing part 6, where we're going to go into the printing process. That's where it gets to be more fun, because you get to prepare your models, support them, hollow them out, put drain holes in them, slice them. Then the best part comes, the printing part. And then when you take them off the platform, you got to clean them up and all that stuff, and then you got your beautiful prints. So looking forward to part 6. Hopefully you guys are as well. See you in the next part.